All right, so now we're going to move back into 2 Samuel 21, continuing that chapter, starting in verse 15, and reading about some more random things that David did. Once again, there was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. This is probably before the battle where they took Gath, which seems to have been what broke the Philistines' power in the region at this point in time. So I don't know where exactly this fits into the timeline. My guess is that it fits into the timeline somewhere before the 2 Samuel 8, but it's hard to say exactly. But once again there was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. David went down with his men to fight against the Philistines, and he became exhausted. And Ishbi-Benob, one of the descendants of Rapha, this is one of the, Rapha is the giant. Okay, this is where the Rephaim come from. The Rephaim are the actual giants. We talk a lot about Nephilim. What's that sound I'm hearing? I don't know. I don't know what that is. Something outside, I guess. I don't know. We talk a lot about Nephilim from Genesis 6. We talked about that when we went over that section. Nephilim isn't really... The Rephaim are the actual giants. Nephilim... You know what? Hang on a second here. Oh, I gotta change my position. I'm getting kind of stiff sitting that way. Rephaim are the actual giants. Nephilim are not. We talked about the Nephilim back when we covered them. Anyway, where was I? Yeah. One of the descendants of Rapha. This is a giant. This is one of the actual giants. And one of the descendants of Rapha, whose bronze spearhead weighed 300 shekels, and who was armed with a new sword, said he would kill David. And David's exhausted. David may not be able to fight back. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue. He struck the Philistine down and killed him. Then David's men swore to him, saying, "Never again will you go out with us to battle. The lamp of Israel must not be extinguished." Now, in ancient warfare, now we don't think of this way in warfare today. It hasn't been this way in a long time. But in ancient warfare, to this point in history, it was common for the king not only to go out to battle with his soldiers, but to be in the front. He led the army from the front. David would have done that. Saul would have done that. Pharaohs of Egypt would have done that. That was common. Like you didn't, now it get to the point as time went on that the most important people were in the back. That the Pharaoh or the king or the Caesar or whatever was in the back of the army, if he went at all. But up to this point in time, it was typical for the king to be in the front of the army, because to a large degree, being the king meant that you were the best fighter. These two things went together. If you were the best fighter, then you became king. If you were the king, then you were the best fighter. Like that's pretty much what the criteria was. For the most part, that's what the criteria was for being king, is just being the best fighter. So David, up to this point, had been not only going out with his army, he was in the front, which would have been common. That was how ancient warfare was conducted. Now that would change. That's not how warfare has been conducted for a long. Not we don't. Of course, now we have drones, but it's like it got to the point where the most important people were in the back of the army, assuming they were even there at all. But at this point in time, the most important people were in the front of the army. Because if you were the most important person, it meant you were the best fighter. Like these two things just went together. And if you were the best fighter, then you were in the front of the army, so you could do the most fighting. Like that's just no. That's just how it was. But apparently David is getting older. This apparently is happening at a point when David is no longer a youth, a 17-year-old or whatever he may have been when we first met him, with boundless energy. Seems like he's reaching the limits of his physical ability to do this, and the rest of the soldiers didn't want him to take this risk any longer. apparently. In the course of time, so who knows when this happened in relation to anything else, there was another battle with the Philistines at Gob. At that time, Sibbecai the Hushathite killed Saph, one of the descendants of Rapha, the giant. In another battle with the Philistines at Gob, Elhanan, son of Jari-Oregim, the Bethlehemite, killed Goliath, or actually, more accurately, the brother of Goliath, the Gittite, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. So Goliath had brothers. This is not Goliath himself, this is his brother. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers in each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He was also descended from Rapha, the giant. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shemiah, David's brother, killed him. These 4 were descendants of Rapha and Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. The First Chronicles account of these victories is actually after the war with Ammon, which we'll cover later. We can read it in 1 Chronicles 20, starting in verse 4. In the course of time, war broke out with the Philistines at Gezer. At that time, Sibbecai the Hushathite killed Sippai, one of the descendants of the Rephaites, and the Philistines were subjugated. In another battle with the Philistines, Elhanan, son of Jair, killed Lami, the brother of Goliath the Hittite. So we know that this is a different guy. It's not Goliath. It's his brother named Lami, who had a spear with a shaft like a weaver's rod. In still another battle, which took place at Gath, there was a huge man with 6 fingers in each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in all. He also was descended from Rapha. When he taunted Israel, Jonathan, son of Shemiah, David's brother, killed him, so David's nephew. These were descendants of Rapha and Gath, and they fell at the hands of David and his men. So the giants are now done. David has rid the land of the last remaining giants. Goliath had a family. Apparently, it was a family that had gotten this way through centuries of inbreeding. Descendants of Rapha, the giant, and they are now all taken care of. That's probably also why the Philistines were subjugated. They didn't have their giants anymore. The Philistines were not native to this territory. The giants were. They had been here in the land of Canaan before the Philistines were, but they happened to live in the area where the Philistines settled. And apparently, the Philistines just, they kind of assimilated them into their people groups, and they fought for them. And so, seems like defeating the giants has probably a lot to do with how David was able to subjugate the Philistines. At any rate, they're done. The giants from days gone by, when they first came into the land, way back in the mid-1400s, after they left Egypt, they reported seeing giants. They may have even been right about that. Their report was one based out of fear, but they may have been accurate to say these people were huge. And now the giants are finally gone. David and his men are the ones who finally rid the land of them. Okay. Alright, so the next major sequence of events to read about David's lifetime is going to be the war with Ammon, and during that time, David has his affair with Bathsheba. The David-Bathsheba incident occurs within the context of a greater issue going on, a war against Ammon. We'll get to that next time. Before we start that series of events, there's one more section that I want to read. That's the latter part of 2 Samuel to get taken care of and cleared out of get this taken care of and dealt with. This is 2 Samuel 22. Again, this doesn't really fit anywhere in the David timeline, so we'll go ahead and read it here before we get into the prolonged account of the war with Ammon and the consequences that come out of that. This is 2 Samuel chapter 22. David saying to the Lord the words of this song, when the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies, and from the hand of Saul. He said, The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation. He is my stronghold, my refuge, and my Savior. From violent men you save me. I call the Lord, who is worthy of praise, and I am saved from my enemies. The waves of death swirled around me. The torrents of destruction overwhelmed me. The cords of the grave, or Sheol, coiled around me. The snares of death confronted me. So he was in bad shape, in other words. In my distress I called to the Lord. I called out to my God. From his temple he heard my voice. My cry came to his ears. On David's day, of course, God did not have a temple. But David understood this is what he wanted to build for God, a temple, a dwelling place. David understood that a temple was a dwelling place for a God. So he's saying that from his dwelling place, wherever that may be, God heard my cry. The earth trembled and quaked. The foundations of the heavens shook. Remember we read about those foundations? You know, David thinks that underneath the earth there are these foundations that are holding up the heavens. That's what he's talking about there. They trembled because he was angry. Smoke rose from his nostrils, consuming fire from his mouth. He's breathing fire. He's mad. Burning coals blazed out of it. He parted the heavens and came down. Dark clouds were under his feet. He mounted the cherubim and flew. He soared on the wings of the wind. He made darkness his canopy around him, the dark rain clouds of the sky. Out of the out of the brightness of his presence, bolts of lightning blazed forth. The Lord thundered from heaven. The voice of the Most High resounded. He shot arrows and scattered the enemies, bolts of lightning, and routed them. The valleys of the seas were exposed, so the whole seas flew up, and the foundations of the earth lay bare. Remember, he thinks the foundations of the earth are underneath the seas. We read before about the way that ancient people thought the world worked. At the rebuke of the Lord, so the valleys of the earth were exposed, and the foundations of the earth laid bare, at the rebuke of the Lord, at the blast of breath from his nostrils. He reached down from on high and took hold of me. He drew me out of deep waters. He rescued me from my powerful enemy, from my foes who were too strong for me. They confronted me in the day of my disaster, but the Lord was my support. He brought me out into a spacious place. He rescued me because he delighted in me. The Lord has dealt with me according to my righteousness. According to the cleanness of my hands, he has rewarded me. For I have kept the ways of the Lord. I have not done evil by turning from my God. He will do evil soon. We're going to get to a section here where he's going to be doing quite a bit of evil. All his laws are before me. I have not turned away from his decrees. I have been blameless before him and have kept myself from sin. The Lord has rewarded me according to my righteousness, according to my cleanness in his sight. Not because of David's amazingness, but because of the way that God credits him as righteous. To the faithful you show yourself faithful. To the blameless you show yourself blameless. To the pure you show yourself pure. But to the crooked you show yourself shrewd. You save the humble, but your eyes are on the haughty to bring them low. You are my lamp, O Lord. The Lord turns my darkness into light. With your help I can advance against a troop or run through a barricade. With my God, I can scale a wall. As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is flawless. He is a shield for all who take refuge in him. For who is God besides the Lord, besides Jehovah? And who is the rock except our God? It is God who arms me with strength and makes my way perfect. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer, He enables me to stand on the heights. He trains my hands for battle. Cat, you're annoying. He trains my hands for battle. My arms can bend a bow of bronze. You give me your shield of victory. You stoop down to make me great. You broaden the path beneath me so that my ankles do not turn. Ever had a turned ankle while you're trying to walk? I've done that a few times. That's not fun. That's not pleasant. I pursued my enemies and crushed them. I did not turn back till they were destroyed. I crushed them completely, and they could not rise. They fell beneath my feet. You armed me with strength for battle. You made my adversaries bow at my feet. You made my enemies turn their backs in flight, and I destroyed my foes. They cried for help, but there was no one to save them. To the Lord, but he did not answer. I beat them as fine as the dust of the earth. I pounded and trampled them like mud in the streets. Sometimes it's just satisfying to beat your enemies. You have delivered me from the attacks of my people. You have preserved me as the head of nations. People I did not know are subject to me, and foreigners come cringing to me. As soon as they hear me, they obey me. They all lose heart. They come trembling from their strongholds. The Lord lives. Praise be to my rock. Exalted be God, the rock, my Savior. He is the God who avenges me, who puts the nations under me, who sets me free from my enemies. You exalted me above my foes. From violent men you rescued me. Therefore, I will praise you, O Lord, among the nations. I will sing praises to your name. He gives his king great victories. He shows unfailing kindness to his anointed, to David and his descendants forever. Okay, that sets the stage now for the war with Ammon. We've read about quite a few of David's other battles. Some of them we read very briefly, some of them a little bit more in depth. But this one is important because this one is the one in which the incident with Bathsheba happens. And that's going to change things significantly for David's life and reign as king. So we're going to get to that next time.